Hey everyone, it's your old pal NATO King bringing you the Prince of Persia Trilogy 3D! Except not in 3D, because I'm too cheap to get the effects and equipment and so on. Sether already did an LP of The Sands of Time, which is the first game in the trilogy, and Cooley did the Two Thrones, so I'm going to pick up the one in the middle. This is Prince of Persia Warrior Within, and I can understand why nobody wanted to LP this one. It's got its flaws. It's got very big flaws. We'll go over that when I get there. It's going to take a lot of loading screens to get there first, so... I think this game has the best fighting in the entire Prince of Persia series. Any game that's had the Prince of Persia name on it, this is the best fighting out of all of them. And it does have some pretty snazzy looking loading screens, I have to say. I'm going to cut most of those out, but you gotta see them at least once. Of course, I've already set up all the options here, except for the difficulty. Normally I would play a game like this in hard, but I'm going to pick normal for this playthrough, mainly because I'm taking a handicap about halfway through the story. I'll tell you more about that when I get there. Plus, the fights in hard difficulty would just be longer and more boring, so for now, enjoy the opening cutscene.
Shows us no mercy. We shall respond in kind. Reef the mainsail. Bring us closer to the wind.
Kill him.
Alright, now we get to the in-engine portion of the cutscene. And we're fighting. This game throws you right into combat, and if you don't know how to block, you're in trouble. The game will tell you how to use your weapons, but you just have to know to hold R1, at least in the PlayStation 2 version of the game, to block. Another thing you might notice, I can pick up weapons that the enemies drop, and do stuff like throw them at them, or cut them in half. I'm going to try to vary the moves that I use as much as I can, just for a bit of variety. Show some more interesting combos with the multiple weapons available. And of course you can just grab an enemy and strangle him to death, but it takes forever. Only ever use that if there's just one enemy. I like the meat shield move too. But I'm getting kind of surrounded here, so let's just cut away from the fighting, why don't we? Whenever that happens, it's probably a good idea to hold block, just because the enemies are going to attack you in the meantime. That was a pretty slick move. The good news is that all the fighting moves from the first game, other than the Dagger of Time, are still here, so you can still do things like counter, vault over enemies and stab them in the back. Oh, and here's an important one. We're standing in seawater, so let's have a drink. Full health recovery from drinking salt water. I have no idea how that works. And I want to show some more new techniques here. You can use the column to do all sorts of neat moves. And the Prince also has a lot more kicks in this game than he did in the first one. Don't even have to fight that guy. Don't worry, the acrobatic moves from the first game are still here eventually. Just right now, more fighting. And some allies that are completely ineffectual against the boss. The problem with the counters in this game is that the timing is a little different from what it was in the first game.
Is that the best you have to offer?
And see if I can strangle this guy to death before the enemies show up, because I really do like the finishing move that results, but could not pull it off. Now I just gotta fight all these guys at once. They're really easy at this point. And I'm gonna grab a secondary weapon because it's boss time.
Our shores alive.
For your sake, you better hope I don't.
Now, this is Shadi. I don't believe her name is ever given in the actual game.
No time for this.
You have to read the manual to find out what she's called. But she looks a lot more intimidating than she is with those two swords. Aside from her doing that, if you try to attack her before she's finished her combo, you just block until she does her final move, where she holds the two blades up like that. And then she does one more sweep, which you can either counter or block it and then counterattack. Trying to pull off some combos, but they're not working for some reason. And vaulting over her is a great way to do some damage, but don't do it too often or she'll start to block it. Tried to do a kick and she just dodged.
You'll have to do better. You bitch!
That scar, I think, for most people, really marks the downfall of the series. It's a scar not on the face of the prince, but on the face of the Prince of Persia series. But that may be a bit more deep and philosophical than this battle deserves. The other thing is, if she's not actually doing a combo, you probably want to keep your distance, because she has an unblockable sweep attack. Which I've seen her use at least once. And figured I'd throw away my secondary weapon because it was about to break. You can block her just as easily with one sword. And when you get to here, just mash the sword button repeatedly, and you get the jump on her briefly. Pretty useless move, and I think she's almost finished now. You don't actually have to wear her health bar down to nothing. One more should do it. Whenever you're ready. Alright, fine.
It seems the Empress overestimated your ability.
The Empress? The Island of Time. The place where the sands were created. The place from which the Maharaja stole the hourglass.
And what if I could reach this island?
They say the Maharaja found portals there, where one could pass backwards through time.
Back through time. To the birthplace of the sands. Something terrible happened when our army traveled to the Maharaja's palace.
You found the sands of time.
Worse. I opened them.
Whosoever shall open the sands must die.
I was forced to kill those I fought beside. Those I had loved.
But now an unstoppable beast chases you.
For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
And you will die.
I used the sands themselves to reverse time, making it as if the hourglass was never opened.
The beast, the Dahaka, is the guardian of the timeline. You were supposed to die, so it will catch you and see to it that you meet your fate.
It is better to try than to wait here for death.
Madness. Even if you manage to reach the island, you'll still have to face the Empress of Time.
I will travel back in time and prevent the sands from ever being made. If there are no sands, the Dahaka will have no quarrel with me.
Go then, my prince. But know this. Your journey will not end well. You cannot change your fate. No man can.
Those words may be prophetic in more than one sense, but I'll leave that for later. So to recap, we go to the Castle of Time on the Island of Time to stop the Empress of Time from sealing the Sands of Time and the Hourglass of Time, so that when we unlock it with a dagger of... actually, I don't have time to explain it all.
My sword's gone.
Yeah, if you remember the line from The Two Thrones where the prince said he never has a proper sword, this is what he was referring to. I gotta fight with a stick. And it's a pain. Prince isn't happy either. Fortunately, all I have to do is kill those birds. And rather than drinking from the ocean again, I think I'm gonna come over to this natural spring. Much better.
My crew, all are lost. I will find the one who did this, and she will pay.
And more birds. You don't really have to fight the birds as long as you keep getting ahead of them, but... There we go. New artwork. You find those chests throughout the game. I'm not going to attempt to get all of them, but I'll get as many as I can. All they do is give you either pictures or videos you can watch from the extras menu. And here's some stuff that looks a lot more like Sands of Time. Climbing and jumping on walls, jumping over gaps. And the save fountains. In this game, they double up full healing and saving your game. So you always save with full health. It's actually really convenient. Takes a little while, but naturally I'll cut those screens out. Climbing hand over hand on ledges, nothing we haven't seen before if you've played Sands of Time. And of course, climbing on ledges with flying creatures attacking you. Just as annoying as it ever was. So I'm gonna get on the wider platform before dealing with this one, making sure I don't swing my sword right off the edge. And then the wall runs, which I think are the element that really set Sands of Time apart from other games like Tomb Raider that were popular at the time. That and the time manipulation abilities were the big selling points. And then for gaps that are too wide to jump, like this one, we have the horizontal wall run. Let's give this a try here. Well, you coming? Alright, screw you, bird. Here we go. And of course, what Prince of Persia game would we complete without pole climbing? The good news is, you don't actually have to turn your way from which way you want to jump. You just press a direction and jump, and off you go. Helps you move around a bit faster. And now we get to fight actual enemies with a stick. The good news is I can block their weapons, but this is really weak. I'm not even strong enough to steal these guys' weapons from them yet. Although I'm trying. About the only saving grace you have here is you can get a secondary weapon and get clobbered trying to use it. Alright, moving on. Next up is more wall running. As long as it's not fighting, I'm fine. And of course, always being vigilant for secret passages, areas where they might put chests. And of course I could run across here, but that's water down there, and I've taken a lot of damage. Never miss an opportunity to heal. Trust me on this. And of course I have to show you, you can't wall run out of water. It was a nice little touch in the first game, and I'm glad they brought it back for this one, although I don't think it affects you in many places. Hey look, it's more fighting. I seriously believe that Ubisoft decided that they'd created this great fighting engine to go along with all the mechanics from the first game, and they had to get as much use out of it as possible. And I honestly don't know what happened there. You can do a lot of neat combat moves off walls. You still have the ones from the first game where you can just jump over enemies or launch from the wall and stab them to death.
Run while you still can.
But there's some better ones, which I'm hoping to show off a little later. You can also do charged attacks with the secondary weapons, but for some reason it didn't work right there. Let me go ahead and pick up one of their discarded weapons. They're all the same, of course. There are a bunch of different secondary weapons that have different properties. To me, it's all just means of doing combos. And we've got a map. It's not a very useful map, but at least it does tell us we need to reach the fortress entrance, and we're at the fortress entrance. And sometimes they switch the camera angle in mid-motion. I always hate that. So we got a sealed door over there, so I guess we gotta go this way.
Come on. you're out there, show yourself. Where I come from, we face our opponents. And if our enemy is unarmed, we offer them a sword! Kill him!
And with that, we get a real sword again. I think it's pretty much the same sword that you had on the ship. You got a 3-hit combo with it. But it's not a stick, and that's the important part. No, you just have to learn how to fight while surrounded by enemies. It's a lot of making sure you're not surrounded by enemies. There we go. 3 in 1 hit. And now it looks like Shadi has opened that sealed door. So we'll have to chase after her, but first, check out the stairs to the fortress. They crumbled long ago. There is no way I'm getting up there. And I don't believe there are any hidden secrets down these ledges. But the old drop down button doesn't work as conveniently as before, so we're following Shadi to see where she goes. And of course, not skipping the save fountain on the way. So, it's not just the stairs, pretty much every hallway in this place has fallen apart. And you've got these pots every once in a while that sometimes give you extra sand, not that I have any use for it. And weapon racks where you can get extra weapons. You always have use for those. And now we've got a lot of birds, but fortunately we're not going to be fighting birds anymore. Meet the Crow Knight. Kind of a mini-boss. Kinda really, really easy. You jump over him, stab him in the back. Repeat. This is all you do. And occasionally, I guess, you gotta hit him in the front.
I grow tired of this.
I'm tired of it too, already. Because it's just the same pattern over and over again. This is the only effective way to fight him. And then he gets scared and runs away. Now, of course, you can just skip him, not fight him at all, but what kind of Let's Play would this be if I didn't do that much? So, dead ends in pretty much every sensible direction. So the only way to go is up. And this is actually kind of a tricky jump if it's your first time. If you don't launch yourself from the wall, you're going to fall down. Fortunately, you don't take any damage. And watch the ivy on the wall here, that tells you when to jump to get to the pole. And versus Crow Knight, round 2. This is a bit trickier because he's near a wall, and you don't want to launch from the wall and fall off the edge of the platform. And I don't know how he dodged me that time. Yeah, I guess the ledge is a little wider than I thought. Not much danger of falling off. Do some more fancy combos here. Pretty much everything that I can to keep the fight a little interesting, because it's just the same thing over and over again. At least he's almost dead. But now I gotta go catch up to him, so wall run over to this ledge, and then turn around and wall run right back. You get just enough height to make the ascent, and there's the ledge right over my head. And we'll keep going. I'm gonna try to maybe do some fancier tricks like the wall run attacks here. But at least for the moment I gotta stick with a sensible line. And completely miss him when I throw away my axe. The only reason you do this fight at all is to get his sword. Which, if I remember correctly, is a pretty kick-ass weapon. I couldn't even do the wall run, but that's okay, because he's dead now. And the door is locked, so always look around for a button. And in we go. Now this is one of, I believe, only 2 new movement mechanics in this game, and the only one that they brought back again for the 2 thrones. Now, the cool moves. The wall run attacks are the best part of the combat in this game. And I don't remember if you can even do them in the 2 thrones. I know they reduced the combat options a lot in that game. And Crow Knight's sword is already almost broken. So, we're trying to get to that hallway over there, but with no floor, we're going to have to be a bit more creative. That's the combo that I use most of the time. Just, it's easy to pull off, it does a fair bit of damage. It's familiar. So only one way to go from here, just climb around this wall. And now I'm in the part of the hallway I couldn't get to before, with some platforms to climb back up in case I ever need to do that, which I don't believe I ever will. And some completely useless chainsaw blades there, and whatever those were. I guess these traps have seen better days. And what is this room, I wonder?
Madness. What magic is this?
This is... No, I'm not going to do that one either. That's just wrong. So she kicks me in the face and runs away. But I don't care. I've got my first sand power, the classic recall ability.
It seems I've discovered one of the time-traveling portals the old man spoke of.
Which means that we're in the past at the time the Sands of Time were created. And I feel so despondent I jump to my death. Whoop, nope, that didn't happen. The recall ability lets me use a sand tank at any time to rewind about the last 8 seconds of the game, which lets me undo anything, including death. And with that in hand, I think we'll call it a video. Next time, we'll chase after Shadi and find out what's going on this island.